Mark Cuban is so friggin' rich, he can afford to literally give money away. And how do I know this? Because even though he's paid about $2 million for criticizing refs, he did it again. Here is the play in question, and I gotta admit, it's pretty bad. Refs blew the whistle, calling Dorian Finney-Smith for a goaltend on Trae Young. John Collins hits the putback, they review it, call Finney-Smith for a clean block, and therefore John Collins' bucket was good. And that is crazy when you think about it. They blew a whistle for a goaltend and the bucket somehow counts. I mean, that's not fair. Everyone thought the play was dead. They stopped playing except for John Collins. The refs call it an inadvertent whistle. Okay, so you can see why Cuban's a little ticked off and willing to just give away more of his money. But was that the worst call of the season so far? Was Cuban's 7-tweet rant the best reaction of the year? We'll find out in today's video. Hey guys, it's Casey Kiernan, host of the AM Hoops YouTube channel. Thank you so much for getting this channel to 25,000 subscribers just since the season began. Hit subscribe if you don't already. We're coming out with 5 videos Monday through Friday, all dropping at 6 Eastern. Also, drop me a hello on Twitter at Casey Kiernan and over on IG at AM Hoops. So there's a lot more to the blown Mavericks call, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first, Cuban said, quote, "This is the same that's been going on for 20 years. Is he right? Does the NBA have a long-term referee problem? Well, he is right that the level of refereeing has been similar for a long time. Forbes reported that the NBA continues to be at about a 93 to 95% accuracy on all calls and non-calls officials make. And actually, I'm kind of impressed at that high of an accuracy mark. There are literally 500 calls or non-calls to be made every single game. And I think the NBA is doing what they can too. I mean, they started putting out these last 2-minute reports for transparency where they literally call out their own refs and admit that they were wrong. They put in coaches' challenges this year. Now, there is the case of Tim Donaghy. He was a ref who fixed games to win at gambling. But that was one guy almost 15 years ago. So I actually agree with Cuban. Officiating has been about the same, but it's not that bad. I think they're doing their best. It is true that teams and players generally hate officials. The Athletic ran a player poll last year, and NBA players said the biggest issue facing the league is officiating. And that hate is definitely still there after more blown calls this season. Now, on basically all these calls, I'm gonna show the last 2-minute reports. And at the end of the video, I'll explain why I really like the last 2-minute reports. So, number 5, Jazz at Pelicans, January 6th. This was in early January before Zion was back. Brandon Ingram making his all-star case. Jazz are up by 2. Ingram driving, no call, Jazz win. And you can clearly see on the replay, Rudy Gobert smacked Ingram's arm as he goes up for the layup. Should have been 2 free throws and a chance to tie the game for the Pels. So if we look at the last 2-minute report, sure enough, Gobert makes contact with Ingram's arm during his shot attempt. Incorrect, no call. And you might be asking, why didn't they just review it? It was so important and so obvious on the replay. And the answer is, there was nothing to review. No call was made, so nothing to review. It's a theme throughout this list. I think the refs swallowed their whistle here because of Rudy Gobert's reputation. This man is back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year. Now, this is only number 5 on the list because there wasn't much reaction, just this from the Pelicans announcers.
It's tough to see from this angle, but you can see it right there on his left arm. It's definitely a foul. There.
Play number 4, Lakers at Mavericks, November 1st. Maybe this is why Mark Cuban was already so hot. There were 2 missed calls in the final 15 seconds that went against the Mavericks. The NBA admitted that in the last 2-minute report. The first, 16 seconds ago, Anthony Davis makes contact to Luka's arm and pulls his hand away from the ball during the start of his dribble. You can see it here. And the worst part, Dallas was up by 2 and in the bonus. That means if the call was made, Luka would have gone to the line, maybe put the Mavericks up 4, again with like 16 seconds to play. Then with 3 seconds to go, last 2 minutes says Dwight Howard grabs and holds Seth Curry, delays his effort to contest the jump shot by Danny Green. And what happened? You know, Danny hits the 3 to tie, Lakers end up winning in overtime. Now this was obviously bad, but the reason it's not higher on the list, well, the reaction also just kind of meh.
I was upset too, but I'm not gonna spend 50 grand
Blown call number 3, Trailblazers at Jazz, February 7th. Now this one looks a lot like number 5, also including the Jazz, but the reaction is priceless from Damian Lillard. Blazers down 2, they go to their all-star. No whistle, no bucket for Dame, but look closer. It absolutely should have been a goaltend. The ball obviously hits the backboard first. Gobert then makes contact. Automatic 2 points and a tie game. Instead, the Jazz end up winning this game too. Again, they didn't review it because there was no call made here. Some people say refs in close games like this should just blow the whistle if it's a close call at all. Again, I think Rudy Gobert's reputation kind of stepped in here. Look at how pissed Damian Lillard was. He had to be held back. Obviously a tough pill to swallow in a tight playoff race for them. The last 2-minute report admitted it was wrong, but Dame tweeted, "We don't want to hear this punk." Actually, that is the feeling from a lot of NBA players, coaches, and fans. But again, I'll tell you why I think he's wrong in a bit. First, you gotta hear Dame in the locker room.
It cost us a game, man. It cost us a game. I don't want to see no report about, oh, we should have called it or none of that. Man, they cost us a game. We in a playoff race, and they cost us a game on an easy call.
The cool part about all that, the league felt for Damian Lillard, saw where he was coming from, and chose not to fine him. Blown call number 2, Rockets at Spurs, December 3rd. Paul Pierce said he's never seen a blown call like this, but it's not number 1. The Harden dunk even fooled the announcers.
And the dunk. Oh, he missed it!
Harden dunked it so hard, it went in and out. You already know why they didn't get this right. Yep, no call made. Mike D'Antoni could have challenged it, but it took him too long to challenge because the referees were explaining the situation to him. That seems kind of unfair. The game went to overtime and the Spurs won the game. This one's not in the last 2-minute report because it occurred with about 7 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Now, if that Damian Lillard reaction was fiery and intense, this reaction is hilarious. ESPN's Tim McMahon tweeted that a Rockets source was genuinely optimistic that the league would let them replay the final 7+ minutes or give Houston the win. Seriously, they actually believed that would happen. That just shows how blind people really are when it comes to their team. But blown call number 1 was the Mavericks at the Hawks on February 22nd. The explanation of why John Collins' bucket counted was that he was in the shooting motion when the whistle blew. That's why Mark Cuban was fired up. Here's one of his tweets. An inadvertent whistle is a suspensional play. The ball becomes dead when the following occurs. The official blows his or her whistle. The exception is if the ball is in flight. And if you disagree, look at this play from Celtics-Lakers in LA. Dwight Howard is called for a goaltend. There's an inadvertent whistle as Jaylen Brown is in his shooting motion, just like John Collins. Except here, the bucket doesn't count and it's a jump ball. That is what the Mavericks think should have happened, and I agree. So unlike all our other blown calls where the refs couldn't use replay, they used replay here and still got it wrong. By the way, the Mavericks are protesting this game. And I know earlier I said the Rockets' choice to protest the game was stupid. And sometimes you think, okay, what the heck is a protest? Is it just sort of a formality so that the teams can feel better if they get screwed? In the entire history of the NBA, actually, there have only been 3 protests awarded. The most recent one was in 2008. The Heat were protesting a game also against the Hawks. Shaq was on the Heat. He only had 5 fouls. But in a close game, the referees thought he got his 6th foul. So he had to leave the game when he only had 5 fouls. And so they ended up replaying the game and the Heat won the replay. They replayed the final 51 seconds against the Hawks. So it works sometimes. Sure enough, the last 2-minute report says the game is under protest. And finally, here's why I do like these last 2-minute reports. It all, for me, goes back to that Tim Donaghy scandal. They had a referee who was fixing games, and now that gambling and sports gambling is becoming legal in more and more states, I'm a big fan of them having all the transparency they can possibly muster. But at least, if there is another Tim Donaghy out there, maybe they will second guess what they're doing if they know even the league will come out and tell the world, yes, this guy got it wrong, this is his name, this is what he did. And maybe it'll be easier to spot patterns. Again, I know it doesn't make the teams feel better for the league to say, look, we got it wrong, but maybe it would prevent another Tim Donaghy from happening. For now, we'll see if it works for the Mavericks. We do know that Mark Cuban's bank account should be a little lighter. And to be honest, I don't blame Mark Cuban for getting fired up and firing off those tweets, because to me that was the worst blown call of the year so far. Support AM Hoops and click subscribe. Don't miss a daily NBA video.